Hey everyone, welcome back to Speak Up. Whether you're a regular listener or just tuning in for the first time, we're really glad to have you here with us. Let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever felt like you're putting in so much effort, trying so hard to change your life, but nothing really moves? Like you're stuck in the same spot, just spinning your wheels. Now, here's the crazy part. What if I told you that you don't actually need to make some huge dramatic change to see results? What if doing just 1% more, yes, just 1% every day could completely change your life in a year? I know it sounds too simple, right? But that's exactly what we're talking about today. Because the truth is, big progress usually starts from something very small, and most people completely overlook it.
I love that question, Ryan, because it hits hard. We're always hearing messages like, go big or go home, or change everything overnight. But let's be real, that kind of thinking just makes most of us feel overwhelmed or burned out. I mean, how many times have we made big plans only to give up after a week? That's why this thing we're discussing today, the 1% rule, it really deserves attention. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it works. And not in a motivational quote kind of way, but in a real, steady, proven kind of way. Sometimes the answer isn't more pressure, it's just better direction. It's about doing a little better each day and trusting that it will add up. We'll keep things super real today, nothing complicated, just an idea that could shift everything for you.
Exactly. And I've seen it happen so many times. People get excited, set these huge goals like, I'm going to start waking up at 5 a.m., exercise every day, launch a business, read 3 books a week, and they go all in for a few days. Then suddenly, crash. It becomes too much, too fast, and then nothing. They stop. They feel like they've failed and they go back to square one. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? What if progress doesn't come from doing everything all at once, but just from doing a little more every single day? That's what makes the 1% rule so powerful. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. And we're going to explore exactly what that means today.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Most people don't fail because their dreams are too big. They fail because they're trying to jump the entire staircase instead of just taking the next step. And honestly, that's exhausting. What we're diving into today isn't some magic trick or quick fix. It's something that can actually stick because it works with how real life actually feels. So stick around. We're not going to throw big ideas at you today, just one small one. But it's the kind of small that can change everything if you let it.
All right, so first, let's actually understand what is the 1% rule. It sounds simple, right? But once you really get it, it sticks with you. The 1% rule basically means this. Every single day, you try to improve just a little bit. Not a big leap, not a life-changing overhaul. Just a tiny 1% improvement from where you were yesterday. That's it. And over time, those tiny steps, they turn into something huge. You might not feel the difference tomorrow or even next week, but give it a few months and you'll start noticing real change.
Exactly. It's that quiet kind of progress that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it works. You're not trying to wake up one morning and be a completely different person. You're just choosing to do one thing slightly better than the day before. And here's the cool part. It doesn't even matter where you start. You could be at 0. That's okay. What matters is that you move forward even just a little. One healthier meal, one better choice, one small task you didn't skip today. That's your 1%, and it adds up.
And the power in this rule isn't in how motivating it sounds. It's in how practical it actually is. Let's be honest. Motivation fades. You wake up one day feeling inspired. But by the next day, life kicks in and that motivation's gone. The 1% rule doesn't care if you're feeling inspired. It's not about doing something huge. It's about showing up, doing just a little, and repeating that again tomorrow. That's where the real progress hides. Not in the hype, but in the habit.
That's so true. And you know what? It also removes the pressure. You don't have to fix everything all at once. You don't have to chase perfection.
The 1% rule gives you permission to focus on just today. Can I be just a little bit better today? Can I make one smarter choice? Can I show up when I don't feel like it just for 5 minutes? That's the kind of thinking that actually works long term. It's gentle, but it's strong.
And we're not saying this is easy every day. It's not. But it is simple. That's the beauty of it. You don't need a perfect plan or a 10-step strategy. All you need is that one question. What's my 1% today? That question changes the way you see effort. It turns big, scary goals into small, doable actions. And once you experience the momentum that comes from even tiny wins, it becomes addictive in a good way.
Right, it's like building a wall one brick at a time. One brick a day doesn't look like much, but give it time, and suddenly you've built something strong, something real. The 1% rule is about trusting the process, even when the results are invisible in the beginning. And the best part? Anyone can do it. You don't need talent. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to start and keep going, 1% at a time.
All right, so now that we've seen what the 1% rule really is, let's talk about why big goals, those huge, exciting dreams, often don't work the way we think they will. I mean, we've all been there, right? You get fired up, make a massive plan, set this huge target, and then something just fizzles out. The first big reason? Too much pressure. When the goal is too big, your brain goes into panic mode. You feel like you have to do everything perfectly, all at once. And when you can't keep up, you start feeling like you've failed. That pressure? It doesn't help. It actually slows you down.
Yeah, and what makes it worse is that big goals don't give us quick wins. There's no immediate reward. You're working hard, pushing yourself, but nothing looks different for a while. And that's hard to deal with. We all want to feel like we're making progress. But when you don't see results fast enough, you start asking, what's the point? And honestly, that's when most people give up. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't feel like anything was happening. Big goals often take time, but our minds want quick feedback.
Totally. And then comes the overthinking part. People start creating these huge plans, color-coded systems, to-do lists that go on forever, and they spend more time planning than actually doing anything. I've done it too. You feel productive because you're busy planning, but in reality, nothing's moving forward. That's why the 1% rule is so powerful. It cuts through all that noise. You don't need a master plan. You just need to ask yourself, what can I do today that moves me 1% closer? That's it. One small step. No pressure, no over-planning.
Exactly. It simplifies everything. You stop worrying about tomorrow, next week, or the end result. You just focus on today. And that's when things start to feel manageable again. Instead of carrying this huge weight on your shoulders, you're just lifting something light, one small task at a time. The 1% rule removes the overwhelm. It tells you, hey, you don't need to be perfect today. You just need to move. And that's a message we all need to hear sometimes.
Let's say it again, because it's worth repeating. Progress doesn't require perfection. It only requires motion. That's it. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be in motion. Even if you mess up, even if you fall behind, if you're still moving, even just a little, you're still in the game. That's something big goals often forget to account for. They don't leave space for real life, for bad days, for detours, but the 1% rule does. It works with you, not against you.
Yes, it meets you where you are. And honestly, most of us don't need another big goal. We need a system that's realistic. One that keeps us going when motivation is low, when we're tired, or when life just gets messy. That's the magic of doing a little every day. It doesn't break you, it builds you. Quietly, slowly, but it builds something strong. And after a while, you stop needing motivation because momentum takes over.
I love that. Momentum is everything. Once you feel even the smallest progress, your brain starts to shift. You're no longer just dreaming, you're doing. And that shift makes all the difference. It's not about making giant moves, it's about showing up again and again, even when it's boring or hard or slow.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest mindset shift we need. Progress isn't loud. It's not always exciting. Sometimes it's quiet, slow, even invisible. But if you keep moving, even a tiny bit, you're winning. You're doing the thing. And eventually, all those 1% steps, they'll take you farther than you ever thought possible.
All right, so now that we've looked at why big goals often fail, let's talk about something that most people completely overlook: the power of tiny gains over time. This is where things get exciting, because here's a crazy thought. If you improve by just 1% every single day, by the end of the year, you're not just slightly better, you're 37 times better. Yep, that's the compound effect in action. Now, I know that sounds a bit wild. I mean, 1% doesn't even feel like progress in the moment, right? But over time, it adds up in a way that's hard to even imagine. And the best part? You don't have to go full speed. You don't need intensity. You just need direction and repetition. That's where the magic happens.
That's such a powerful shift in thinking. Because honestly, we're so used to believing that results only come from big efforts. But the truth is, it's those tiny, repeated actions that actually move the needle. And you're right, 1% feels like nothing when you're doing it. But the math doesn't lie. Over time, it multiplies. And here's something really important. We need to stop thinking in terms of winning the day and start thinking in terms of building the streak. You don't need to have the best day. You just need to keep showing up, even in a small way. That's what builds consistency. That's what brings results you can't ignore later.
Yeah, and this is where people trip up. They miss a day, maybe they get tired, life happens, and they start thinking, well, I messed it up. I failed now. But listen, missing one day doesn't break the system. It's missing consistently that does. You're allowed to have off days. You're human. It's not about perfection, it's about what you do next. The compound effect rewards people who bounce back. If you skip one day, no big deal. Just get back on track the next day. The problem comes when you disappear for a week or a month and then restart from zero. That's what we want to avoid. So keep yourself space to fall, but also the mindset to get back up quickly.
Exactly. Because success isn't about how intense you are. It's about how consistent you are. Let's say you do something good for yourself today, like reading for 10 minutes or going for a walk or learning one new thing. That's your 1%. Now imagine doing that tomorrow and the next day. You're building something solid without overwhelming yourself. And you don't need to be perfect every time. Some days your 1% might feel effortless. Other days it might feel heavy. That's okay. It's not about doing your best every single time. It's about staying in the habit. That's what turns small efforts into massive growth over time.
You know what's wild? Most people don't even notice the compound effect until it starts working. At first, it feels like nothing is happening. You're putting in effort, making small changes, and your life looks the same. But behind the scenes, things are shifting. Then suddenly, bam, it clicks. You've made more progress than you thought. But it only works if you give it time. And here's the mindset shift. Forget quick results. Focus on daily actions. The big stuff comes later, when you're not even expecting it. Just make today count, even in the smallest way.
That's such a game changer. Because we live in a world that wants fast everything. Fast success, fast results, fast change. But real growth? It's slow, it's silent, it's steady. That's why the 1% rule is such a powerful approach. It respects how growth actually works. And here's something I always remind myself. If you're not seeing change yet, it doesn't mean it's not happening. Trust the process. Trust the math. Even if your results are invisible right now, keep planting the seeds. Because one day, all those tiny gains will turn into something massive. And it'll feel like it happened overnight, even though it didn't.
Yeah, and once that momentum kicks in, you stop needing motivation. You just do the thing because it's who you are now. You're not forcing it, you're flowing with it. That's the real power of tiny gains. They turn effort into identity. You become the kind of person who keeps going. So even if you're starting small, especially if you're starting small, remember this. It's not about doing it all today. It's just about doing something today. 1%. That's it.
And that's something? That's what separates those who wish from those who build. You don't need to go big. You just need to go forward.
Keep that in mind, and you'll be miles ahead before you even realize it.
All right, so now that we've talked about how powerful those tiny gains are, let's get super practical. How do you actually apply the 1% rule in real life? What does it look like when you wake up tomorrow and want to live this way? Well, the first step is pretty simple. Just pick one area you want to improve. That's it. Not 5 things, not everything at once, just one. Maybe it's your health, maybe your mindset. Maybe you want to improve your focus or build a better routine. Whatever it is, start there, one area. And once you picked it, ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that moves me forward? That's the start.
Yes, and once you've picked your area, the next move is to break it down. You don't need a massive to-do list. What you need are micro tasks, tiny steps. So if you want to improve your health, maybe your 1% today is drinking 1 extra glass of water or taking a 10-minute walk. The goal here isn't size, it's simplicity. You want your 1% to be so easy that you can't say no to it. Because when something's easy to start, you're more likely to keep going. The trick is to focus only on the next 24 hours. Don't stress about next week or next month. Just think, what's my 1% today?
Exactly. And once you know your micro task for today, track it. Not in a complicated app or with a fancy habit tracker. You can literally use a notebook, a sticky note, or just the Notes app on your phone. The point is to build awareness. When you track your actions, you stay mindful. You're telling your brain, this matters. And no, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not judging yourself, you're just noticing. That's the key. Most people fail not because they're lazy, but because they lose track. Life gets busy and suddenly 3 days pass and you're off track. That's why writing things down, even in a super simple way, keeps the system alive.
And let's talk about the real game changer here, habit formation. This is where the 1% rule goes from being a cool idea to becoming your lifestyle. The truth is, systems always win. Goals fade. You might hit a goal and then stop. But a habit, that stays with you. So instead of saying, I want to read 20 books this year, try this. I'll read 5 pages every day. That's a habit. That's a system. And that's how you win long term. You're no longer relying on motivation, you're building rhythm. The 1% rule helps you build systems that run in the background of your life, without stress.
That's so true. And the beauty of it is, once something becomes a habit, it gets easier. You don't have to think about it, you just do it. Like brushing your teeth. You don't sit and plan that. You just do it because it's part of your identity. That's where we want your 1% habits to go. And remember, habits don't start big. They start tiny. The goal isn't to impress anyone. The goal is to keep going. Every day you show up, even for a small thing, you're proving to yourself, I do this now. That's how identity shifts start happening quietly in the background.
Right, and honestly, once you start living this way, it takes off so much pressure. You stop feeling like you have to do everything perfectly all the time. You just ask yourself, what can I do today that's slightly better than yesterday? And even if it's just a small step, you took it. You're moving forward. And that's way more powerful than burning out trying to do everything at once. The 1% rule brings you back to what matters: consistency, simplicity, and progress you can actually stick with. You're not chasing intensity, you're building stability.
That's so true. And so if you're listening right now and thinking, where do I even start? Here's your answer. Pick one area. Break it into tiny steps, do just one of them today, track it, and repeat. That's the system. And I promise, over time, those tiny actions are going to add up into something much, much bigger than you expect.
And the best part? You'll look back a few months from now and realize you didn't just hit a goal, you became someone new. Someone who shows up, someone who's consistent, and it all started with just 1%. That's the power of building your life one simple action at a time.
Now that we've covered how to apply the 1% rule in daily habits, let's go even deeper. This next part is about shifting your thinking from goals to identity, and that's something most people never even consider. When you say, I want to write a book, or I want to lose weight,
You're focused on outcomes. But what if we flipped it? What if you started with identity, like saying, I'm a person who writes every day, or I'm someone who takes care of their health? That shift changes everything, because when your identity drives your actions, those actions become automatic. You don't force progress anymore, you live it. That's why the 1% rule is so powerful. It gives you a small, daily path to becoming the kind of person you've always wanted to be.
Yes, exactly. And when your identity becomes your focus, it completely changes how you approach growth. You stop thinking in terms of results and start thinking in terms of who you are becoming. Like, instead of waking up every day thinking, how do I hit my target weight? You wake up thinking, how do I act like a healthy person today? See the difference? It's subtle, but powerful. It shifts your behavior automatically. That's why even small 1% actions matter so much. Every time you show up, even just a little, you're casting a vote for the type of person you want to be. You don't need to wait until you've achieved something big to feel proud. You feel it every day because you're living your identity through action, not just hoping for change.
Right. And here's what makes it really effective. Identity is stable. Goals can fail. Motivation can disappear. But when you believe something about who you are, your brain supports that belief through consistent behavior. That's why it's easier to say, I'm someone who learns every day, rather than constantly pushing yourself to finish a course or a book. The moment you start acting like that person, even in tiny ways, you reinforce that identity. The process becomes smoother, lighter. It's not about pressure anymore, it's about alignment. And the best part? You can start immediately. You don't have to earn it. You just decide, today I'll do one small thing that proves I'm already becoming who I want to be.
And this mindset is a game changer on the days when you feel low or tired. Because when your actions are connected to identity, not just outcomes, you can still feel strong, even if your performance wasn't perfect. Let's say you had a busy day, but still took 5 minutes to journal. That might not feel like a big deal, but it is. It's you saying, I'm still that person. I still show up. And that's what builds long-term consistency. The 1% rule protects your identity by giving you small, daily actions to fall back on. You don't need to hit a big goal today. You just need to do one thing that reflects who you are becoming. That one action keeps your identity strong.
Here's something you can do right now. Ask yourself, what identity do I want to build? Think about it. Maybe it's, I'm someone who speaks confidently, or I'm a calm, focused person. Got it? Now ask yourself, what would a person like that do today? That's your 1% action. Nothing big, nothing dramatic, just something small, easy, and meaningful. And the moment you do it, you're already becoming that person. The point isn't to impress anyone. The point is to reinforce your new identity through action. That's where the magic happens. You're no longer waiting to feel ready. You become ready by taking aligned action now, today.
I really like that exercise because it shifts the way you think immediately. It's not about pressure anymore. It's about showing up for yourself. And that feels empowering. When you take a tiny action that matches the person you want to be, you feel honest. You're no longer pretending or dreaming. You're living it. So even if it's a 5-minute habit, it counts. It tells your brain, this is who I am now. And if you repeat that long enough, your brain starts believing it without question. Suddenly, you're not chasing identity, you've become it. And all you did was stay consistent, one small moment at a time.
So let's make this super clear. The 1% rule is not just a productivity tip. It's a tool to rebuild your identity, piece by piece. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need to feel overwhelmed. You only need to ask, what would the best version of me do right now? And then do it. That's it. When you live like this, your life becomes a reflection of your values. You stop trying to change overnight and start evolving daily. And trust me, that's way more powerful than any big one-time push.
And when you focus on identity, you don't feel like you're running out of time. You feel calm because you know every small action is moving you forward. It's not about perfection, it's about motion. That's how real transformation happens, quietly, steadily, one step at a time. So today, no matter where you are, just take that one small step. Make it true. Make it yours. That's how you live the 1% rule, by being who you're meant to be, just a little more every single day.
Finally, let's talk about something that most people quietly struggle with, but no one really explains well. Burnout. You know that feeling, right? You start strong, you're super motivated, you make a big plan and go all in. But within a few days or weeks, you're tired, you're drained, and eventually you give up. That's burnout. And it happens because we push too hard, too fast. We rely on motivation, not rhythm. That's why the 1% rule is such a hidden advantage. It doesn't need hype, it doesn't ask for massive effort, it just needs small, steady movement. And that's the kind of progress that lasts.
Exactly. The 1% rule protects your energy because it's designed to be gentle, not exhausting. Instead of setting goals that demand hours of effort, you shift to asking yourself, what's one simple step I can take today? And you stop there. No guilt, no shame, just one thing. When you live like that, your brain doesn't feel overwhelmed. Your body doesn't feel tired. You stay in motion, but without pressure. And that's the key. Most people quit not because they can't achieve big things, but because their process is too heavy. The 1% rule makes progress light, so you can actually keep going.
And here's the truth. Sustainability beats intensity every single time. Anyone can push hard for a few days, but can you keep showing up for months, for a year? That's where real transformation happens. And guess what? You don't get there by doing more, you get there by doing less, but doing it every day. That's why the 1% rule doesn't care how you feel. You don't need to be inspired or hyped up. You just need to take one small action, even when you're tired, even when you're busy. One step, that's all. It keeps the momentum alive without draining you.
And honestly, it gives you a sense of peace. You stop waking up stressed thinking, how will I finish everything? Instead, you say, what's my 1% for today? That mindset alone removes so much pressure. You stop chasing perfection, you stop judging yourself, and most importantly, you stop quitting because you found a system that matches real life. The kind of life where things get busy, emotions go up and down, and motivation comes and goes. The 1% rule meets you where you are and still helps you move forward. Slowly, gently, but always forward.
And that's what most people don't realize. Consistency doesn't have to be painful. Progress doesn't have to feel heavy. It just has to be steady. If you keep adding just 1% a day, you grow stronger without ever burning out. You build results that stick. You gain confidence that stays. And all of it happens in the background, quietly. While everyone else is burning themselves out trying to change everything in a week, you're calmly building a life that lasts. That's the beauty of it. No pressure, just progress.
So, if you've been feeling tired, overwhelmed, or even close to giving up, maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the problem is the size of what you're trying to carry. The good news is, you don't have to carry everything at once. You just have to carry today. That's it. One small action, one quiet step. And tomorrow, you do the same. This way, you're still moving forward, but without the stress. And honestly, that's the kind of rhythm that heals you. It brings your energy back, it brings your belief back. Bit by bit, day by day.
So next time you feel the urge to push harder, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, could I move forward with less? Not less purpose, but less pressure. That's how the 1% rule changes everything. It teaches you that even gentle progress can create massive impact. You don't have to sprint, you don't have to hustle every second. You just have to move with calm, clear intention. That's what makes this system powerful. It keeps your spark alive, even when life gets hard.
And here's a final question to leave you with. If doing more is burning you out, could doing less every day actually get you further? Think about that. Because sometimes the smallest shift can lead to the biggest change. And maybe, just maybe, your best progress begins with doing a little bit less, but doing it every single day.